Tree of Light by Christopher Cameron. The November wind picks up strength and sways the old pine tree back and forth. A solo figure in dark winter clothing clings to a branch near the top, looking like a sailor in a crow's nest on a storm-lashed ship. It is the first weekend of Advent, and just as he has done every year since late in the last century, the man is about to string hundreds of Christmas lights into the boughs of the huge, ancient pine that stands in front of his house. Earlier, as he was starting his climb, a neighbor walking his dog along the side of the road looked up from the sidewalk and wished him good luck, the way the soldiers in the Great War wished their mates luck just before they went over the top of the trench. The neighbors all know about his annual ritual of the lights. They smile with something that might be a mix of wonder and pity. Up to now, a familiar feature of the season has been the email correspondence about whether his children and their families can come for the holidays. This year, the circumstances make it unlikely. They will probably have to follow their own holiday traditions and tend to their own children while sheltering in place. The risk of packing them into cars or airplanes swathed in masks to come and visit at the busiest time of the year is too much to think of. How many of us had heard the term PPE before last spring, he wonders. So a whole year of personal contact will be missed. It's funny. When you're raising your children, it seems some days will never end. After, you wonder where they all went.
Children see him lily
He doubts they would even remember that it was because of them that he began his Christmas light-stringing chore. When they first moved into their house in the mid-90s, marveling at the old forest surrounding them, the kids insisted that the giant pine tree out in the front yard would make a cool place for Christmas lights. All you have to do, they told him, is to climb up to the top and string them on the branches all the way down. They never wavered in their belief that he could do it. That's probably the reason he accepted the challenge, even though he knew he was sentencing himself to annual floggings by branches and impalings by twigs as he attempted to breach the heights of the crotchety old pine. If you're a father, there's got to be some time in their lives when your children believe you can do anything.
So be good for goodness sake.
Oh, you better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. The kids and girl and boy will have a jubilee. They're going to build a toilet
All around the Christmas tree.
so you better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming, Santa Claus is coming, Santa Claus is coming to town. Joy to the world, it's Christmas time. To town.
The sky overhead is turning steel wool gray in the late afternoon, and the clouds that sit low over the hills are looking swollen and bruised. I've left it too late in the day, he thinks, laughing at himself. I'll be lucky if I can see what I'm doing in 20 minutes. But it has to be done today. A storm is coming, and his tree will be unclimbable if it's covered in snow. It will become part of the winter's forest, accessible only to owls and cardinals. The hills of Northumberland seem to entice and trap snow. Although the squalls are stronger near the lake in places like Coburg or Brighton, the more serious, more permanent snow prefers the places further north where it falls and settles gently but steadfastly. It is the best snow he has ever known. When what falls in the big city has been trampled slush-brown by boots and traffic and washed away down storm drains, Northumberland snow always stays healthy for Christmas. He wonders what his Mississauga friends over in Alderville might say about it. After living on the land and caring for it for so many generations, they would surely have a unique way of describing this kind of snow. He must remember to ask.
Well, as a young boy, I remember vividly how beautiful it was in Alderville and along the south side of Rice Lake. The snow looking like blankets, white blankets all through those farm fields. I'll never forget that feeling of peace, I guess, peace and serenity. And the snowbanks, how high the snowbanks were, I'll never forget. Of course, I was a lot shorter then, but I always remember the monstrosity of those snowbanks. And it was just an exciting time to be a child, and also the religious aspect of Christmas as well was always something that was important, and some of the songs that came out of that period, some of the songs that stuck with me, like "O Holy Night," that was a song that I remember as a young child actually, and being struck by the beauty of that song, and that's something that I want to play right now.
Through a gap in the branches, he can see into his house. The family room is illuminated by a single lamp beside his chair, and the yellow light spilling onto the ground outside the window promises warmth and comfort after his work is finished. He can remember a full score of Christmases in that family room. The tree, the children, the glow from the fireplace. He knows his wife is inside somewhere, working, cooking, or napping. She barely notices his tree-climbing exploits anymore and knows he will come inside when he is done, not before. From his perch, he can see the river at the back of his property, carving a green-black path through the hills. 25 years now. And he still wonders at their good fortune to have found this place. When he and his wife, with 2 small children in tow, first saw the house on the river, they decided it must have been built on this very spot just for them. It had been so easy to make the transition from urban descendants to country dwellers, and they never looked back. On the way home from his rare trips back into the city, he feels his hands relax their grip on the steering wheel in relief as he passes the sign on the 401 that says, County of Northumberland.
Sweet
He strains further up the tree. His strategy, refined over decades, is to work his way down, pushing the Christmas lights out onto the branches as he goes. His body is swaddled in the many strings of lights he is carrying. A sharp twig pokes him in the scalp, and the wind swirls motes of dead bark into his eyes. I have definitely seen poems lovelier than you, he snarls at his tree. As if in response, a medium-sized branch snaps off in his hand. Are they all so brittle this year? He wonders, looking down at the one he is standing on. The tree's limbs, like his own, are not as strong or supple as they once were. Each year, his ascent wears both of them down a bit more. He reaches suddenly for a higher branch, and an old shoulder injury wakens and groans in protest. The large pine, never beautiful to begin with, has begun to look awful in the past few years. Old age plus decades of weathering have caused many of its branches to wither and die, collapsing into themselves like arthritic hands. Its needles are now sparse. If Charlie Brown's tree had survived to senility, he thinks, this is what it would look like. I should get rid of it, plant a newer, healthier, fuller tree. But history and tradition grip him as firmly as he grips the rough bark of the branches. His daughter climbed into this tree as a child to read her first books. She would sit cradled in one special bough, away from everything except the worlds created by Enid Blyton, Louisa May Alcott, L.M. Montgomery. Now she writes her own books. His son's second-floor bedroom window looked out through the branches, and the glow from the Christmas lights shone inward every December, from the days he was a preschooler until the year he moved to the other side of the country to begin his career in academia. His wife still gardens in its shade, growing more and more things every summer, even after all these years. Stringing the tree with its lights is part of the weft of the family fabric. Like so many liturgies of life, this one has become ingrained as it is and does not invite change. And like life, the light stringing doesn't become any easier over time. But over time, you become more accepting of how difficult it is. It's possible he dreamed that someday his children would take over the task when they became old enough and when he became too old. That time came and went, and the mantle was somehow never passed, so the project remained his. In addition to the vestigial value of what he's doing, he actually feels a sense of duty to the scraggly tree itself, as one would to a perennial relative who's unappealing to look at, difficult to love, but impossible to imagine not there. And so he climbs, ducking, weaving, and squeezing himself through the limbs and needles. His surroundings grow darker and more disorienting by the minute. The branches seem to assume a new configuration every year, always keeping him guessing where to step, where to hold on. The laws of entropy govern his project. Strings of lights he had meticulously disentangled on the ground have entwined themselves together again like mating eels. With one frozen hand wrapped around the tree trunk, he uses the other to try to unravel them, assisted by his teeth. When you are up a tree, you will use any available resource to help you stay there. It is a long way down. He looks out over the forested canopy of his property. Beyond the roof of his house, the Trent River flows. The river has a life cycle of its own, repeated through the seasons. In spring, after the ice melts, it rushes past with a frightening intensity, as if it knows it is utterly unstoppable and can go where it wants. In summer, it loses its urgency and becomes lazy and limpid, tinting everything underneath a cool lime green. In the fall, the geese stage themselves there, resting, perhaps thinking of friendly water ahead. And when the cold weather comes, the bank grows shoulders of snow-covered ice, although the moving river never allows a total freezing of its path.
Christmas River, carry my dreams. Take my heart with you in your waters of green. Safe in your current, blue skies above. Carry my dreams to those I love. Christmas River, I stand on your banks, and though I'm lonely, I give you thanks. Your gentle waves soothe me, and now I see some of the best dreams are meant to be free. Christmas Christmas river, carry my dreams. Take my heart with you in your waters of green, safe in your current, the skies above. Carry my dreams to those I love. Carry my dreams to those I love.
Looking further into the distance, he can see the snow approaching from the west, blurring the overlapping lines of the Trent Hills until everything is a swirling veil of hornet's nest gray. About half an hour before it gets here, it looks like. Time to finish up before the snow makes the footing treacherous. If I fall, he thinks, I will probably hit about 15 branches on the way down before landing in a crumpled heap on the ground below. He tightens his grip, the action sending a new ache through his fingers. Why not, many have asked him, simply leave the lights up there in the tree all year round? He has a stock answer ready. To him, there is something uncompromisingly seasonal about Christmas lights. They would look out of place whipping and snapping around in a July thunderstorm. What's more, he's always liked the way the light stringing ritual bookends his holiday season. As soon as they go up, I can start humming carols, he tells his neighbors. And when they come down, I can forget about the Christmas past and start looking forward to the new year. They stare, as if to say that this is not a good enough reason. And maybe it isn't anymore. This may be the last year I do the lights, he told his son over the phone the other day. A laugh. Impossible! You'll be doing those lights till you're 100. And he wanted his son to believe this. Maybe 100 is a reasonable goal after all. And so, although they won't be here in person this year for the first time since the grandchildren were babies, everyone will be present for the holidays in ways that he could never have imagined. He will post online photos of the lighted tree for everyone to see. His kids will set up Zoom meetings. They will send videos of the grandchildren singing carols and playing music. The family will all be together, not in one place, but virtually and spiritually through their words and music.
I'm dreaming tonight of a place I love, even more than I usually do. And although I know it's a long road back, I promise you I'll be home for Christmas. You can count on me. Please have snow and mistletoe and presents on the tree. Christmas Eve will find me where
Christmas, if only in my dreams, if only in my dreams.
Gradually, he works his way down the tree. The strings are woven through and around the branches, and every light has a place by the time he sets foot on earth again. Almost on cue, white flakes start to fall, so big and heavy and thick that they coat everything in seconds. He walks through the snow-dappled gloom to plug the joined light strings into an extension cord, then goes down the driveway onto the road to see the results. The lights curl upward around the pine boughs like wisps of colored smoke, reaching into the cascade of snowflakes above and casting a warm glow onto the whitening ground below. His tree looks beautiful. The majesty it once possessed is restored.
Oh, Christmas tree, how evergreen your branches. Oh, Christmas tree, how evergreen your branches. They bring with summer days so bright, they bring through winter's starry light. Oh, Christmas tree, how evergreen your branches. Oh, Christmas tree, how can we seek your promise? Oh, Christmas tree, how can we seek your promise? When all around is early rain, we look to you to light our way. Oh, Christmas tree, how can we seek your promise? Promise.
This year, he and his wife will not spend the coming evenings peering out the front window into the December darkness, watching for the movement of headlights through the forest and listening for the snow-muffled sound of tires on the driveway. But the old tree stands tall and is not in a hurry. As long as the lights continue to be strung on its boughs, it will endure to outlast even this time when so much has been riven, knowing that one day the family will again follow the tree that lights their way home like a star.
Your